So I was thinking that if with different colors, as the eye can see, as the eye can see, and the cameras can see, but we're one race. God created one race. So I'm thinking if we're looking at the race issue, there must be something that we're missing that is there, which is identity. If I have a passport, I have two, by the way. It identifies me to say that this is where I'm from. So I think to go digging deep into what the issues are, we have to look at identity.
Yeah.
And we say identity from a Christian perspective.
Sure.
Take, for instance, my son. I have a young boy. You know him. He's in the States right now, and we're going to be moving to the States, and so this concerns me a great deal as a father. Um, by heritage, he's Nigerian, proudly so. He's British by association of his dad, myself. He's American by right because he was born in America. Um, his mom is mixed. She's half Nigerian, half Filipino. So my 4-year-old son has a full Filipino grandma that loves him very much. So the world I see in front of him, I pray that maybe he would become the president of one of these countries. uh, I think in England he will be probably the first black, or in the Philippines. But the world is his oyster. Is by God's grace, is going to be a global citizen. But the way I want to bring him up is not to look at his identity without denying any of his identities, but to see his identity first in Christ, and not just, oh, as an American, or as a Nigerian, or British, or Black Filipino, if you know what I mean. But we have to look at identity.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of questions about America because I see, I know them that genuine Christians on both sides of the aisle, to the left and to the right.
Yeah.
In the South. But I'm just wondering, where's the leadership? Where is empathy? And where's the truth? And I'm apolitical. I watch American politics intrigued as an observer.
Yeah.
When elections comes up, it almost feels like you're watching Netflix. But on a more serious level, I just want to know, how come true Christians have to choose one or the other? And how come we can't speak the truth all the time? And how come we as Christians, empathy is missing if we're not on the winning side? Can you explain that to me?
Yeah. And again, I'm just speaking from an American context.
Okay.
And also just from my own personal experience. We've said all throughout this, we can only speak for what we've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Can't speak for anybody else. But this is what I saw spending a lot of time, both growing up and several years as an adult in the U.S. The idea of your identity, you kind of mentioned in the political sense, is very much tied into this. And I think, honestly, part of the problem. I think a lot of times in America, even for Christians, that your political identity is equal to or greater than at times your identity in Christ. And so, when that happens, and you've put it to that level. And again, it's not to say you can't have a political identity where you'd say, I support this platform or this group or this politician, but it's how high you hold that identity and the priorities of your life.
Okay.
And I think in American Christianity and politics, a lot of times, because you hold that political identity so tightly, it makes it almost impossible for you to see the flaws in your own party or in your own political platforms, or to praise the good things in the opposite side's platform or politics. Because there's this weird idea at play often in American politics that says, if I admit our flaws, or if I point out the opposite side's goodness, we lose.
Oh, see.
Or I'm a traitor to my group. I'm a traitor to my political identity.
Okay.
If I call us out, or if I say anything the opposite side has done is good, we've lost.
All bets off.
It's all off. And so I think that's what then that culture makes it so difficult for Christians who have over elevated their political identity to say, well, this is good and this is good, or this is wrong and this is wrong. So I'll give you an example. So let's say you typically vote Republican as an American and a Christian, someone with a Christian worldview. The thing that they will often champion the most is saying, well, look, they are anti-abortion.
Okay.
Now, coming out of a Christian worldview, I would say the Bible affirms that we should affirm all life.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. But then those that
all life matters.
All life matters.
Yeah.
But then those that are Christians that usually vote for the Democratic Party and their candidates would say, but look what they're doing for the oppressed or the poor or those that are suffering. They tend to do more. Their plans involve more help for those groups. And God calls those things good.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to play the game where your political identity is as equal to or greater than your identity in Christ, then it forces you as an American to say, okay, I'm voting Republican because my Christian principle that my platform holds to is more important than all of your Christian principles, Democrats.
Okay.
Or flip it. If you vote Democrat, the helping the poor and those in need, that's the most important thing. And you Christians voting Republican just don't get it because these are the most important Christian values.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, no. When I come to any topic, whether it be political or otherwise, my first reaction that I have is not to run left or to run right, but to look up. What does God say about this? Not what does my political party say about this? Not what will others think if I call out my side or if I call good what the other side is doing.
I see. Yeah.
What does God say? Yeah. But we can only do that. That's only possible if we stop having our political identities be equal to our identity in Christ and put them where they should be, far, far lower on our priority spectrum.
I like that. That's interesting. And just as we're talking, I was just, okay, so that's American context. And I'm thinking, for example, let me share about my heritage in Nigeria. So I come from the South. A lot of people say that I look like someone from the North, that I have the features. And I remember at a particular time, I was coming into the country, and at the airport, this guy looks at my passport, looks at my name, looks at it. Then he speaks Hausa to me, which is the language of the North. And I could make up what he was saying, but he thought I was pretending. Then I said to him, I don't understand. And he was like, it's so funny. He said something to me in Hausa that I don't understand, but I understood that day because he said to me, I was like, oh, you don't want to, you want to act like you're acting like you don't understand.
So you can fit in with another.
No, it was just saying, oh, you act like you don't understand. But imagine someone says you don't understand, but actually understood just that line of I don't understand. But he thought I was just making up, so I could easily pass. and we're one and the same people. It doesn't matter whether you're from the north or from the south. But our identities are not just where we were born, because you have no right over that. You didn't choose to be white. I didn't choose to be black. It's God's creation. And when it comes to our tribes, whether you're from the north or the south, and in America, like you guys, you have the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a bias with people from the Midwest or people from the coast.
Yeah.
Or people from the,
sure.
I don't know, is it your mountains or whatever. So our identities are truly not in our political identities or where we come from as Christians. Our true identity, like you said, is just look up to the true north. That's what identity is. Even as Christians, I also, one thing I was really guilty of is I used to see myself, my identity in my vocation. Coming from a real estate background, that, oh, that's my identity, but that's not my identity. And that's a false identity, because today I could be doing real estate, tomorrow I could be doing something else. I could be a doctor, I could be a lawyer, I could train to be anything.
Yeah.
But because the chief end of man is to glorify God. So in whatever we do, that's our identity, not my vocation. Because almost like people have jobs and then they lose their jobs and then they're like, who am I?
Yeah. If you elevate any identity other than that of an identity in Christ,
Yeah.
then eventually it will fail you.
Well,
but if we put Christ first and we look up, that's always our first move.
Yeah.
Then it'll be an identity that never lets us down and allows us to always call good things good, wrong things wrong,
Yeah.
and to honor God and love people well.
Amazing.